guys, welcome back to 31 Nights of Horror. This is the official mark of 90s week where we're going to be talking about 90s horror, and today I decided to start off with probably one of the most 90s horror movies when I do think of the 90s in general, and it is The Craft. So I'm excited to talk about it today because I do think it's an interesting one, and I'm going to go and talk about my thoughts with it and such like always. But before I do get started giving you guys my thoughts on The Craft, let me know what you guys think about this movie down below. If you've seen it, I'd love to talk about it with you. And if this is one that you regularly watch on Halloween, because it definitely has its cult following, so I'm curious if any of you guys are massive fans of The Craft. But yeah, without making any more of a longer intro, let's start talking about The Craft. So this movie is basically about some girls who are witches. That's pretty much the concept of this movie, and the plot really just, obviously goes more beyond that, but that's essentially what it's about. And I love a good witch story. I love witches. If a movie talks about witches even in the tiniest bit, I'm gonna like it a little bit more, and this movie is obviously really just about that. This group of girls in school who are like the outcasts of everybody else because people just call them weird. They do weird things and stuff like that, and essentially they're witches. And then they meet this other girl who is pretty much like a natural witch, and she's like the new girl in town type of thing. So we have a lot of cliches in this movie for sure, but I honestly think if you kind of don't pay attention to them and don't kind of figure out how predictable the cliches can be, I think it's a lot of fun. And I also think the cast of this movie actually makes the movie a lot better than it is, to be honest. I think if they would have gotten other cast members, the movie might not have been as famous, or at least, in my opinion, not as enjoyable as it is right now. And I think it's also really funny to note that this movie came out in 1996, and Neve Campbell and Skeet Ulrich are in this movie. And what other movie came out in 1996 with both of those actors? Yeah, Scream. So just wanted to throw that out there. I just think it's funny that they both kind of starred in the 1996 movies. And also, I really like the outfits in this movie. I think they're so cool, and they're all dressed literally in the best way possible, and they all have like their own little style to it, but it's all like witchy and goth and cool, and just, yeah, it's a vibe. I love the vibe. And similar to other 90s movies, we have a good soundtrack and such, and I think the movie does a very good job at building the friendship at the beginning and kind of making this a pretty enjoyable ride, in my opinion. However, I think this movie could have been so much better had they not really done what the third act did in this movie. This is something that kind of like really disappoints me and, borderline like pisses me off, because the movie, for the first half of the movie, or not even the first half, like for the first part of the movie, it's really about this friendship. They're starting to get to know each other, and this isn't one of those movies where we really know the characters that deep. The most that we really know of these characters is like little tidbits and such. We get some development from some of the girls more than others, especially from Nancy and Sarah, but I think both of them are the most interesting characters in this movie. What the second half does kind of just, in a way, makes everything that happened before pointless. It doesn't make this as powerful as I think it should have been, and I'm gonna have to spoil it because I really don't know how to talk about this movie without spoilers, because it's gonna come out. So if you haven't seen The Craft, and if you really don't want to be spoiled for what happens, then this is your warning that pretty much the rest of my review is going to contain spoilers. We get to this point where the girls are essentially trying to kill Sarah, and that's something that I don't really like that much, because yes, I understand that people can change, and I understand what they were trying to explore with greed and stuff like that. Nancy, for example, she always wanted the power. I feel like out of the group, she was the one that I expected the most to do that, but I think the other two girls had really no place in being mad at Sarah or wanting to kill Sarah. Like, I feel like the movie had a really big shift in tone, because yes, it got more serious, which I think the movie needed a conflict and needed, that serious level that we do get at the end of the movie. But I don't like that it's at the loss of this friendship, and I don't like that they're pitting the women against each other. I don't really like when movies do that in general, but I think in this movie especially, it's like you started this movie off in such a really special way that I think you guys should have just kept it going. And even if they did want to go in this route, I think they just shouldn't have ended it the way that they did. Basically, it ends that like they're all literally trying to kill Sarah, doing horrible things to her, kind of turn on her. Sarah like almost kills Nancy. There's like a whole scene there where you're like, holy crap, are they gonna actually kill each other? Which, that would have been awful. But then Nancy ends up at like a mental institution. Like, that's just how it ends. And I don't really like that, because it kind of makes me think, thinking backwards, like, what were the writers really thinking with this story? Because if you're really gonna make this story about these four leading women, these girls who like are friends and they're trying to figure out themselves through being witches and stuff like that, but just in life in general through friendships and stuff like that, And I know the movie was never supposed to be some lighthearted coming of age story, like obviously this is much darker than that, but I just think with what they set up, to have it end in that way feels very disappointing, because you go through the journey with these characters and I just don't really get the type of message that they were trying to send out, and whatever they were trying to do disappointed me. I didn't like it because it kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth type of thing, and I can't help but think that if this movie had been written and directed by a woman, the outcomes would have been totally different. Because I think there's so much you can explore with witchcraft that they just kind of missed here. They could have really gone deep into a lot of other things, like trauma, for example, because the movie does have snippets, which I do enjoy. It kind of shows that these girls are really traumatized. They've gone through a lot, and I think they should have just developed that further because it felt very surface level to me. Just real things that happen in real life, and I think they should have gone deeper into that instead of having them all turn against each other and leave an ending that I honestly really, really hate. So basically, I don't hate this movie. I think this is an average movie. There are stuff that I like and there's a lot of enjoyable things, and you know, it sucks that I feel like what I'm most talking about is how it ended, but it's really what I'm left thinking about is all of the missed opportunities and things that they could have done better. I think there's a lot of interesting themes here, but I really think they could have just pushed it more. Like, we have these leading girls, these witches, like make a better storyline with that, because I really do like what they were doing at the beginning. It was a lot of fun to see them, like, for example, playing around with the spells. Like, those type of scenes are some of my favorites, and although the movie definitely, like I said, needed that suspense, needed the like scares and the horror stuff, I think they could have gotten it in a very different way, or at least resolved it in a different way as well. And I feel like the movie too, a lot of stuff feels like unresolved. This shift happened out of nowhere, and yeah, I'm just gonna be thinking about how this movie could have been so much better. But yeah, maybe not the best start to the 90s week. I do think this movie's fine. I think it's an alright movie, and I understand why people really, really love it. I just think there's a lot of things that could have been a lot better, but still, I'm curious to know what you guys think about it. If you haven't commented down below, please do so we can talk about it. If you agree with me, disagree with me, literally whatever your opinion is, let me know about it. Let me know what you think about it down below. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching today's review. I'm super excited for this week because a lot of the movies that I'm planning on reviewing this week, I haven't actually seen. Like, there's a couple of them that I've always wanted to see, so you're going to be getting a lot of first impressions, you know, just my review literally right after I watch it. So very, very excited about this week. I'm also reviewing like a couple of the movies that I also really, really love. So yeah, 90s and horror is very interesting, and I'm excited to be covering it, and I hope that you guys are too. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. Keep tabs on my community tab. I'll be updating you guys with anything for like videos, live stream and such like that, mostly on there. And also make sure to like this video if you've been enjoying 31 Nights of Horror so far. I'm posting every single day in October, and even though we're kind of at the halfway point right now, I'm still excited to keep this going, and I've been having a lot of fun with 31 Nights of Horror. So if you've missed any of the videos, there's going to be a playlist link down below. But yeah, thank you all so much once again. Hope you guys enjoyed talking about the craft with me a little bit here, and I'll make sure to see you all in the next 31 Nights of Horror video. Bye everyone!